Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Today we have the pleasure of talking with Dr. Jim Willie. And for those who don't know, Dr. Jim Willie runs the newsletter, The Golden Jackass, and the Hat Trick Letter, where he breaks down macroeconomics, microeconomics, and everything in between with a very special focus on precious metals and now digital assets. He also holds a PhD in statistics. So in practical terms, he follows the data wherever it leads. Jim, sorry for the long introduction. It's been a while since we last spoke, and I've really missed our conversations. How are you?
Oh, I'm surviving. You know, I remember an old movie with Charlton Heston. A day above ground is a good day. You know, our goal is to survive because the powers that be are trying to reduce the population. And there's a better word for that. It's called genocide. They're trying to reduce the population. So I'm doing okay. I'm alive. I'm not thriving. My newsletter is doing well. I'm not thriving. My health is good. But, you know, we're under attack. And those who don't understand it, you're the dummies in the room. They're trying to make us poor. That's the banker's role. And they're trying to make us sick. That's the medical role. But it's a lot worse than that. The lockdown was illegitimate and the pandemic was false. Wuhan was a fake story. Oh, I got a story about Wuhan. I had 12 different Chinese clients contact me, Versan. This is back in January, late January of 2020. They were all Chinese. They were like in Australia, Singapore, Hong Kong, California, a few in California, and Vancouver. They all said the same thing. Australia, if I didn't mention it, they all said the same thing. Nobody died outside the Wuhan city limits. It was a radiation event. Okay, so there's a lot going on, and we're being lied to on a regular basis. Just because Trump won doesn't mean that the cabal is eliminated. It means that we have the momentum against them as patriots. And, you know, it's unfortunate, and I don't want to get into a big Trump conversation here, debate, but Trump has to make some compromises in order to get done what he wants to get done. Trump has to make some compromises to complete his agenda. And my attitude is, it's like he's buying some compromise for a couple of years. But I think the rubber's going to hit the road in the last 2 years of his administration. We're not even done with the first year. Okay, right. We're 2/3 of the way into his first year. And you know, there's some hiccups in the start. But these are exciting times. If I could just make a shift,
sure.
I notice things that are magnificent. That's what I try to do. I notice we had a term when I did marketing research. My favorite job, not the most profitable job, but my favorite job for the work was marketing research from 1984 to 1992 at Digital Equipment Corporation. Back then, you probably don't remember much about that era, but IBM #1, Digital Equipment #2, Hewlett Packard #3, and digital died. Right under our feet, our company died from magnificent errors by the founder, the old guy, Ken Olsen, CEO. He made enormous errors, a sequence of them, and we ended up getting bought out by Compaq. Yeah. Then Compaq got bought out by Hewlett Packard, and you know, the VAX and VMS architecture for software and everything went away. So I had to start over. Here I was, like, I guess at the time I was about 40 years old. I had to start over because everything that I built in the previous 12 years, poof, gone. Anyway, my favorite job was marketing research at Digital, a computer company. And it was hardware, software, services, and you name it, everything. The biggest thing I learned was You got 100 pieces of information out there. How about sorting them? Here are the top 10. What's the top 10 out of 100 items out there? That is not easy to do. What is not really relevant? Put it down the list. What is right at the top? The digital transition in finance.
That's right.
It's at the top. I get into an interesting argument with a buddy of mine. And, you know, when it's a buddy, you can speak freely and say, hey, Mark, don't be stupid. Come on. You're making idiotic comments here. Come on. What he said to me, it's a friend from 15 years. He said, Jim, I think that Bitcoin and all the digital crypto stuff, I think it's a bunch of shit. I think it's a bunch of mumbo jumbo bullshit with no basis and nothing. There's nothing behind it. And I said, there's almost nothing behind Bitcoin. And there's more behind Ethereum. Those are the cryptocurrencies. But do you know anything about XRP, or do you just paint with a large ignorant brush? Said, whoa. And I said, I don't think you can tell me 3 details about XRP. And he told me 1. Oh, it's a transfer thing, isn't it?
Yes, it's a value transfer mechanism.
I love how they call it value transfer rather than funding transfer, rather than dollar transfer, rather than currency transfer. Oh, what a clever term, value transfer. Anyway, paradigm shift. The paradigm shift. We've got a paradigm shift. And let me just make a really interesting comment that you probably haven't heard in this framing. But we've got the financial sector that has Standard & Poor 500 corporations, and we got Treasury bonds, and we got a lot of bonds associated with that Standard & Poor 500 group of companies. And now we got the leaders of the pack, the FANG mats. And for those who don't know what they're also called the Magnificent Seven. It's Facebook, it's Apple Computer, it's Netflix, and it's Google. And then there's a hyphen for the MAT. It's Microsoft, Amazon, and Tesla. And let me just make a good, I think, bright comment, appropriate comment. They're all funded by Langley Narcos.
I believe that.
By way of the Swiss National Bank. And let's leave that alone. All right, so you've got these Standard & Poor 500 companies, and now you got the FangMat Magnificent Seven, and they're all obedient. All the CEOs in FangMat are obedient to the cabal. That is the advantage of having its funding from Langley. Now, who are the leaders in digital finance? Well, you got Ripple, you got Stellar, you got XDC Network, you got Solana, you got, you got a few others. There are not many, and that's my point.
Yeah. Hedera.
Hedera, good, right, Hedera, HBAR. All right, so you got, 5 or 6, let's just call them 7 leaders. They're going to be running the show in digital finance, just like the Standard & Poor 500 did. And let's just say that they're maybe 30 to 50 or 70 leading companies, not the tail end of the 500 out of the Standard & Poor 500. There are fewer players running the show of digital finance. And therefore, you've got a hydraulic effect. That's what I like to call it. I'm not the only person to call it that, but you got trillions of dollars, trillions, let's just say trillions in value, regardless of the particular currency. It could be euros or pounds or yen. But if it's yen, you got to multiply by 100 because you need 100 yen to be a dollar roughly.
Right.
We got a hydraulic effect here, Versan. These market caps are going to get into the high trillions.
That's
because
right.
There's so few of them. Hydraulic effect. You're having a lot of trillions about to come into stable coins. RLUSD is already up to 700 million in a matter of weeks. There are not going to be very many operators of this digital finance new system within the paradigm shift. I love this argument. It's fallacious. Oh, you can't get above $4 trillion market cap on XRP because that would be bigger than Apple Computer. Who gives a crap? XRP is going to replace the dollar as the global reserve in its function regarding trade payment, as in Treasury bills at the port, as in stable coin like RLUSD to replace the Treasury bonds in central bank reserves. I believe XRP is going to largely, not completely, largely replace, supplant the king dollar in its global finance function. So I ask, what's the market cap of the king dollar?
Right. Trillion, okay. 100 trillions, more than that.
Hundreds of trillions, right. So XRP could get to 100 trillion without even breaking a sweat. And I think that's, I believe that's $1,000 price. But let's not get carried away. My eye itches, pardon me. There's so much going on. I'm noticing a confluence of events right now. And I hope you don't mind if I focus on XRP, because I truly believe we're in the middle of a really peaceful revolution where the opposition to Ripple will become their partners, and that they're not going to be at an equal level. It's going to be funny. We're going to have JPMorgan eating out of Ripple's hand because Ripple will be conducting their transfers and saving them billions of dollars. The banks, we all know the SEC story. We all know the obstruction. How do you define it? Is it a security? No. Is it a currency? No. What the heck is it? Well, we're going to call it a value transfer. We're going to call it a value transfer because you haven't gotten that blocked yet. Pardon me. Well, I got too bright a light. Okay.
It's all right.
So we got a confluence of factors that are working, and something came up. I got to start out with this because it's so big. Something came up, and I learned it from a really sharp fellow with the crypto networks. And I don't want to mention name because, I want to support your work, because I learn from you whenever I see you on videos. Okay, what I've learned is that several of the major coin exchanges have seen a sharp reduction in their exchange wallets, the volume that they're holding XRP. I mean, I don't have the exact numbers. It's like, I'll just throw something out. Like Binance or Coinbase, they might be down from 700 million XRP coins in their exchange wallet, and now they're down to 200 or 250 million. The point is that the major exchanges have their own proprietary reservoir for liquidity, the exchange wallets. And several of these exchanges have their wallets with a 50% reduction in the last month for XRP holdings. And I think they're supplying BlackRock.
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised. Can I add something to what you've been saying? This is really, it started as an XRP channel, and we kind of tried to start talking about some of the broader topics to bridge it into this transition. But overall, to your point, what we see happening is crypto and DLT, distributed ledger technology. We see a rapid consolidation from the fragmented experiments in crypto into a structured, interoperable financial system. And that's why networks like XRP play such a critical role, because they act as a neutral liquidity bridge. It bridges, again, the fiat systems. We're talking about all currencies. The stable coins, we're talking about all digital currencies. And of course, the tokenized assets, which include commodities, real estate. And that essentially is going to unlock a lot of the trapped capital that we see into on-chain liquidity. And with the regulatory environment evolving and the Clarity Act that is now coming, you're naturally going to see this institutional adoption. To your point, trillions and trillions of capital is going to start flowing into these rails.
It's not several billion; it's several trillion.
Yes, that's right.
And the dominant players are going to see their market caps go up and to figures that are unbelievable.
Yeah, and in parallel to what we just talked about here, it's like the digital infrastructure, stablecoins, and XRP. It's a cross-asset solution where liquidity channels can serve as a bridge to the global markets, while the dollar can still remain dominant in the digital ecosystem. But XRP is that neutral liquidity sovereign asset, which ultimately is a reserve currency for a tokenized ecosystem. And some of the stable coins that are now issued on these networks, they're going to operate, symbiotically, where the XRP provides the liquidity and all the stable coins are the transaction vehicle to reach the international markets. Yeah. And that's why the Treasury is now involved in this stuff.
Oh, central banks and the Treasury. I regard the stable coins as the ocean of liquidity.
Yes.
Okay. And how many oceans do we have on the planet? 7. We call them the 7 seas, but they're the 7 oceans. Arctic, Atlantic, Pacific, Indian. The stable coins are going to act like the 7 seas. And I think RLUSD is going to become dominant. And I'm not the least bit worried about Ethereum having its day in the sun. Let them have their day in the sun, because there was a phenomenon a year ago where MicroStrategy had a huge buildup in its capital. And then there was a spillover. And during that spillover period, XRP went up 5-fold.
Right.
Now we got Bitmine, and they're taking in the capital, and it's 10 times as much. And there's going to be a spillover. And now Ethereum is taking it. Ethereum's more than doubled in price since May. Now I like that. I like that. It means capital is coming into our big ocean. Mm-hmm. It's coming into the digital framework, the digital architecture, the digital system. And once, I'll give you an example. I'll just make up an example. There could be a bank like Citibank, and they invest several billion, perhaps many billions in Ethereum, or maybe hundreds of millions in Ethereum. And then they decide to do some studying. Then they realize, hey, wait a minute. We don't have the best in class here. We just have the most popular among Wall Street. The shiny object is Ethereum. And after they're done with, being fascinated with the shine, they're going to be looking at cost, speed, scalability, reliability, partnerships, and they move into XRP. Get them into the corral, and then they're going to pick the right horse.
Of course. I mean, naturally, that's what's going to happen. It's going to be consolidated, because at the end of the day, it is about the technology, right? ETHgate was another major thing that took place that most people are not aware of, where they did overreach, suppressed the intrinsic value, what XRP was providing, suppressed it. There's no doubt a coordinated effort on a global scale, to a degree, by the regulatory bodies to slow the innovation down, because it really disrupts the system. And we're talking about this whole Bitcoin network, the Ethereum network, but these networks that we see in the ecosystem, they actually have no intrinsic value. Okay. It functions more like a leverage instrument that will only benefit the adopters disproportionately. And that's something I've noticed over time. So there are a lot of retail speculators who are not aware of this kind of thing, how deep this rabbit hole goes. And they're advised to just hold, right? They buy and they hold their crypto. But every market correction we do see, which is obviously manipulated, it allows the largest holders to actually consolidate the speculators' wealth. And what they've been doing is converting that into real assets like gold, real estate, and even bonds, and some other things. So,
property.
Jim, property, right?
Real estate.
So real quick, it's like, indeed, no matter how much people try to sugarcoat this, it is a speculative Ponzi style instrument. How long do you see Bitcoin continuing to rise in price? Do you
Oh,
think?
I think it's going to continue, Versan. I don't see it collapsing like some do. I don't
Mhm,
really care that it is lacking intellectual property,
mhm.
IP. I don't care. I really don't care. I don't care that it's lacking a headquarters. I
Yeah,
don't care that it doesn't have like adoption via contract. What I care is that it's a gatekeeper for bringing money into our entire ocean ecosystem. Let them bring it in. Let Bitcoin go up 50% in the next several months.
mhm.
And then profit taking will come and you'll get the hydraulic effect going into a smaller tube of XRP.
Yeah,
From XRP, from Bitcoin to XRP, from Ethereum to XRP, it's going to be a hydraulic effect. And those who don't understand, if you go from a 2-inch tube, of hydraulic fluid, and you go into let's call it a 3-inch tube going into a 1-inch tube, a 1/3. From a 3-inch tube to a 1-inch tube, you get a 9-fold increase in the power.
yeah,
That's the hydraulics. It works to the square because you're dealing with the cross section, and the area is proportional to the square of the radius. This is going to be exciting for the hydraulics, and there are further hydraulics from the exchange traded funds that are planned. Okay, I have my own little phrase and my own concept of what's going on, and I got my ways of doing things. And so far, in 21 years of the newsletter, with the extremely competent help of some of my my colleagues, I've got 6 colleagues. 2 of them are dead. We're down to 6 plus me. We've got managed disruption. Now, you remember the term of creative destruction,
mhm.
creative disruption, constructive disruption. It means you're breaking down the old system and you're building the new, and you got to be careful because you can't do it too fast. Here's
Like a
one thing
slow
that,
demolition
yeah, you can't
controlled.
demolish the entire city. You need to do it one at a time. You need to do neighborhood at a time. I'll give you an example. Right now, I believe the favored son among the ETFs is one that's not even on the list, and that's BlackRock's.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if in 6 months they have 3 or 4, and they got 3 or 4 different managers for each, and they got their strategy for who knows and who cares how they manage it, going in and out, trading the ups and downs and whatever, dealing with different inflows and different, like one would be Ethereum flowing in, another would be Bitcoin flowing in, another would be like dark assets from Switzerland flowing in, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
They're not talking about BlackRock. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, I respect him for his intelligence, but I don't respect him for his honesty. I believe he's trying to create, smart cities, buying up properties, and just basically digital city prisons for
Yeah.
citizens. And
Mhm.
it's getting harder and harder to be a homeowner nowadays. Okay, he was in a panel discussion with Garlinghouse of Ripple, and someone on the panel said, Larry, tell us, what are BlackRock's plans now for an XRP based exchange traded fund? And
Yep.
he said, I can't say.
Yeah. You don't want to know.
Well, one of the other guys on the panel said, does that mean you're under an NDA, non-disclosure agreement? And he said, I can't say.
Hmm.
So, yeah. Okay. Now, if these big exchange wallets with millions of XRP coins are being reduced and they don't tell us any details,
Yeah.
then they might be under a non-disclosure agreement. Who else is under an NDA? Okay, I think what we've got now is a stall. The big banks are trying to accumulate XRP, and not just BlackRock. That's not a bank. It's a disgustingly corrupt private equity firm. But let's just leave the two adjectives out. It's a private equity firm. Bank of America and Bank of New York Mellon each said that we want to purchase over 20 trillion in using our real world assets. That's another new term coming out. RWA. What's that?
Real world assets.
Yeah, assets under management and all kinds of stuff. Bank of New York Mellon and Bank of America each said we have over 20 trillion of assets under management. Another acronym, AUM. Well, if they want to buy RLUSD, then don't you think they're going to tell Ripple, help us out so we can get a boatload of XRP under $3? Mm-hmm. We don't want to buy it at 7 or 8 where it should be right now. Can you help us out to keep it under 3? Okay.
I mean, I reported on this in 2023. And it was sent to me by a very dear friend in the crypto space. And it was a leaked report from a JPMorgan analyst saying that BlackRock, back in 2023, BlackRock and JPMorgan were increasing their XRP position by 7% of their entire portfolio. And I got ridiculed and attacked. And naturally, that's going to happen. But when you start looking into the weeds of all of this, I mean, why wouldn't the largest behemoths of the global financial system be at the forefront of the innovation? Anyways, I made an article about it and I added the link on X to where this article was. And I'm not kidding. Minutes, it started gaining traction. And about 5-10 minutes, the link was removed from the website. And it had all the details. The good thing is I took screenshots of it. And this was one of the pieces from it. But it explained how BlackRock was eyeing XRP. The link was taken down though, and it had a lot of good information in there for people to cross-reference their own research and come to the same conclusion ultimately. Wow. So they are buying XRP. There's no doubt about it.
Oh yeah, and they're not going to tell us about it because
they're never going to tell you. Right?
If they tell us about it, then the price will go up on what they're buying. So they're going to do the opposite of tell us about. They're going to deny that they're buying it, and they're going to stop you from talking about it. Okay, so I assume that in the quiet shadows, the giants are accumulating. Yeah. So what I'm concerned about, Versan, is what's it going to take for them to say, yeah, we're all in, and it's okay now to lift the price? What's it going to take? I think the litmus test is the exchange traded funds.
Yes.
Now, I posted a list on the August report a couple of weeks ago. Well, I guess 1 week ago on the Golden-Jackass website, a list. And it included Fidelity. It included Templeton, Franklin Templeton. There are 15 of them. But one I'd like to mention, it's Canary Capital. They not only talk about what they're doing, they're talking about the oversubscription. He said, the guy's name is McClurg, the CEO of Canary Capital. And they're going to be in the news more. He's getting interviewed. Here's what he said. JPMorgan and Standard Chartered estimate that the XRP-based exchange-traded funds, the ETFs, by the end of the year will bring in about $5 to $8 billion in investment. And I did my little math, and that turns out to be probably something like an $8 or $10 price based on the market cap multiplier, $8 to $10 XRP price. But he said, this guy from Canary Capital, they've got one ETF. He said, based on what we're seeing with our firm, we got double the subscription of what we were expecting. He said, it's not going to be $8 billion at the high end. It's going to be 15.
Yeah.
And JPMorgan, they put out a low ball. Why do they put out a low ball? Because they're accumulating it.
That's right. And that's why the price is so heavily manipulated.
They're going to release it. I think it's going to be from the Ethereum overflow. It's going to be a number of things. Garlinghouse came out of a meeting with the SWIFT executives and said, we got a goal He didn't say we got a deal. He said we got a goal of 14% of SWIFT traffic. Well, jeepers, that's 20 trillion in 1 year.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm aware. I mean, shit,
Yeah.
man. I've been reporting this for 7 years, Jim, and I'm just excited to see this coming into light now. It's incredible, but
I've
this
got
is
only-
indeed the opportunity of a lifetime.
This is Bitcoin 2.0, but with intellectual property, with stable coins backing, with adoption and contracts with 300 banks, with on-demand liquidity as a big competitive advantage. That's what's going to get the spillover from Ethereum straight into XRP. Okay, and by the way, this on-demand liquidity needs to be discussed, and I'm sure you've discussed it, but I want to just mention it. They're the pre-funded corresponding bank escrow accounts that are called the Vostro for them and the Nostro for us. They each have to be funded in order to receive like 5 million, where you got to have the Vostro account holding 5 million.
Yeah.
And each side has to have the same amount. And when it's all done, those accounts get pulled back, those corresponding accounts. All that's eliminated. And Rob Cunningham talked about this. He said, we got something like 10 or 12 trillion dollars of capital in banks that will no longer be needed in their corresponding function. This is very big. This is a huge advantage for XRP. Solana doesn't have it. XLM doesn't have it. HBAR doesn't have it. That's why I think, and this is something I learned in marketing research, Versan, when you have a bunch of winners, you don't have 20. You have 4 or 5 or 6. And one of them is dominant and might get over 50%. But the others will try to make it so it's more like 45. And then you got some with 15, some with 10, some with 12, some with 18. And you got 5 winners. This is what I think is going to happen with XRP in retail, in cross-border, and in SWIFT. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if eventually, over time, we get like 20, 30% of retail, and we get 60 to 80% of cross-border for XRP.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's important to note for the audience as well that it's the stable coins and the demand for stable coins and the tokenized assets that are going to be the fuel, if you will, that will drive and power the XRP network. So as more real value, we're talking about physical gold, debt, government debt, which is insane, real estate, other assets. You're talking about all the money in the world, essentially. This is what's going to create massive on-chain liquidity. And when stablecoins function, XRP functions as the bridge currency in settlement flows, it must consolidate all the value. So it's a neutral liquidity bank and bridge that connects
a neutral bridge asset.
Right.
You know, this is something that I've only been at this about 18 months now with XRP. And I'm learning fast, and I've got a lot of friends. What I like metaphors. I like the ocean metaphor. On the ocean, you've got ships. These are companies, and they deliver cargo. The cargo is being paid for with XRP, and they're not taking a week to get from one port to the other. They're taking seconds. So it's like ships at sea that travel at the speed of light. And you know, you got to be careful with the metaphors, but they can be very, very useful. What I've also learned is it doesn't matter what the two parties are, and it doesn't matter what their actual rails are. The final transfer is going to be predominantly with XRP because it's got on-demand liquidity, because it's so fast and cheap. You know, HBAR is also fast and cheap. XLM is also fast and cheap, but they don't have on-demand liquidity. And you know, for those who don't quite understand the significance of that, imagine you got let's just call it Bank X out of New York or Connecticut, Bank X, and they're accustomed to transfers between $1 and $4.5 million each day. Now suddenly they get one for 28, and then a few days later they get one for 52 million. Well, are they going to get a hiccup? Are they going to get what I call a hairball? The answer is no. the liquidity is going to be created instantly by XRP's intellectual property, and bang, bang. If they had H-bar used, they might get a hiccup. We're going to get stories about H-bar hiccups, Solana hiccups, and XLM hiccups, and that's going to really power XRP. It's going to be the bridge asset that is commonly used, even when RLUSD is not the stable coin for that liquidity body.
Yeah, I mean, the final settlement of everything is through the XRP itself, and that's what you're saying. Exactly. So that's where the value is consolidated. And I may add something too. I mean, I'm really enjoying this discussion more than I thought I would now, because we're talking about something I'm very familiar with. But there's another connection to all of this when you start to talk about other digital assets in this ecosystem. Now, XRP doesn't just settle, it bridges too. And this is where it gets important. If it transfers value into other systems, then we start to look at Stellar, for instance, XLM, because that can become the network as well, where distribution moves within the digital ecosystem. So there are two distinct layers: XRP locking in ownership and liquidity, and Stellar also unlocking usability and access. And this is that two-tier banking model. And when you dive even deeper into the BRICS nations and some of the other geopolitical fronts that we're confronted with, you start to realize that the tech that's being put into motion and regulated on a global scale is built for a multipolar world. And that's where it gets interesting. You can start to break this down. And of course, if everything is becoming fractionalized, trackable, and even movable across the rails that are controlled here, then you have a new multipolar system with two digital ecosystems essentially being bridged together through one settlement mechanism. So I think gold is going to back it all as real collateral, and XRP is going to be the function of digital collateral for a tokenized economy. It's really that simple. A lot of people find it very challenging to understand the XRP and how the price even climbs. But it's supposed to be at a very high price. We talked about this briefly before recording.
Yes.
And it was always meant to be at a high price in order to satisfy the demand that is necessary to settle. So
it was designed to be $100 coin.
I think a lot higher than that.
I know.
Yeah, significantly higher.
It was designed to be $100 because it wasn't expected to go so global. It's gone global in ways that I think Ripple has been surprised. Ripple executives have been surprised. Okay, it's got to function. It's got to function at the $100 price. And there are several analysts out there who make great arguments. If it is going to fulfill a global role as the bridge asset in a widely, not universally, but a widely accepted function, then it's not going to be able to function adequately at $100. It will need to be a few $100s. If it is going to be the functional success device for Swift for even 20%, it will have to be close to $1,000 price. In order to fulfill its function, it cannot be like, I made my little analogy before we began recording, and I'll bring it again. The VW bug. Okay, the VW bug just got a contract, and the contract is to move like 20 truckloads per day across town. Well, you can't do it with a VW bug. You need a bigger capacity, so the VW ends up buying a fleet of trucks. And that is what XRP is doing now. The fleet of trucks will be manifested in $100 price. We're going to have quantum jumps. The first quantum jump, I think, is going to happen when we get the ETFs approved, and when it becomes cat out of the bag. BlackRock has 3 of them. Cat is out of the bag. Oh my gosh. So, okay, I've had already about 10 consult calls with clients who said, Jim, I don't have a cold wallet. I don't have a Trezor. I don't have anything. I asked my broker at Fidelity. I asked my broker at Morgan Stanley, and they said, no, but we got some exchange traded funds coming up soon. This is how
they want you to speculate on it, not own it.
Well, I think the ETFs are going to be a good vehicle for both investors and lifting the price.
I agree.
both
It's going to bring
ends.
more liquidity, and more importantly, it's going to bring
Demand.
regulated capital into the digital ecosystem
And
from traditional vehicles.
it's going to be my 65-year-old lady in Florida who said, Jim, let me know which ETFs and let me know when it's available so I can tell my broker at Fidelity. Because I don't have a wallet and I don't know what to do with a wallet. They don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And you know, some of us are struggling with some of the functions. In 82, there was a big battle. There was Mosaic and there was Netscape. And they were browser software companies. And their stocks moved. Netscape stock with, I think his name was Andreessen, Mark Andreessen. Okay, what did they do? They made browsers so that people, common people, could use a computer and get on the internet and use www.something.com/something HTML. That all had to be developed for ease of use. And after a few years, no one knew about Netscape. It was all integrated into the system as a layer. This is what's happening. Google and I think it's Galaxy. Oh gosh, I'm not really sure. Google and others are now building into smartphones the layer to enable you to use Bitcoin or XRP for a retail purchase. Did you hear last week? AMG theaters, they're now accepting XRP.
I'm not surprised. I mean, even in Dubai, we have a lot of friends out there. They're accepting XRP to pay for it in advance for a home, to pay your phone bill, things of that nature. So it's already being integrated into the retail sector.
But
we just need to
getting away from utility. You said property. Is it? How about like a cement construction, cement contractor?
Not at that scale yet, but it's getting there. But right now in Dubai, you could use it to pay for certain services. And if I may, I would like to share this with our audience too.
Sure.
I have been accepting XRP payments on Black Swan Capitalist for our consulting sessions for 3 years now, 3.5. So we've had a lot of exposure to the crypto space by accepting these payments from individuals. So people have paid us in XRP. Now, between you and I and the audience, as my community and my friends here, I encourage people not to pay an XRP out of a professional courtesy, because the value on that is going to reflect eventually, and you're going to wish you never sold it, in my opinion. So, you know, for those who don't see this, I mean, we accept XRP though, so I'm already integrating it into our payments in our business, and this is growing.
They're giving you an appreciating asset.
Basically.
Okay, I have one client who said, Jim, I think I might sell my other car and buy XRP. I said, good idea. A car is a depreciating asset.
Yeah.
And one other client said, Jim, I'm thinking about selling my horse.
For XRP. Oh my God, that's cute.
I told her, sell your grandchildren.
But just don't. What about selling your gold? I
no.
Don't sell your
I have
gold.
3 favorites: silver, gold, and XRP. And I have one favorite stock, and it's really not a mining stock. It's more like a capitalist precious metals company. It's called Wheaton Precious Metals, WPM. They buy byproduct silver from producers like for zinc or copper or gold, and they got silver byproducts. So they buy it, you know, for a big discount, multi-year contract. Okay. Anyway, I like gold, silver, XRP, and WPM.
I am building a position in platinum. I had a dear friend of mine in the ecosystem, somebody I really admire. He's been in the mining sector for 45 plus years, and he had some insights. He told me that platinum was going to catch up to gold, and the demand is rising in all the sectors. So physical platinum, it's going to create a supply shock in the near term. And that's just something I would like
platinum
to share.
Was just designated a national security metal.
See, I did not know that. That's incredible.
Oh,
so
yeah.
This is an opportunity, almost like to get gold when it was in 1500 range, 16, right? Historically, the platinum price has been higher than gold in the past. So now it has to catch up. And essentially, that is what a currency reset is. It's a reset of all assets across the board. So just an opportunity I wanted to share with everybody.
I think silver is going to be designated a national security metal also. I was told by one of my favorite sources of information, and we've gone separate ways since about 2018. It was The Voice. He said back in 2016 or so, he said silver will become so valuable, not necessarily in price, but in function, that it's going to be stockpiled. The military is going to get involved, and it's going to become a national security metal with national warehouses under fair pricing, not manipulated pricing. I'm going to say something right here. I think the U.S. military is manipulating the silver price to keep it down.
Yes.
And what they're allowing is every few months they put up a $5 higher hurdle. Now, I'm anxious to see when and if we're going to see silverback XLM Stellar and goldback Ripple XRP. That's what I heard in 2018 when I had a guest special report who did a brilliant job this was 7 years ago, and it was 2 cents. 2 cents. Can you imagine buying XRP now with a lot of money for 2 cents?
I can actually, but you're right.
I didn't.
I mean, it was a great opportunity. I mean, we were telling people to buy it at 18 cents, and people would, you know what they would tell us? It's so cheap. It's so cheap. Why would you buy that? They assume that buying something that costs more, you're getting something better, and they had no idea about the technology, and that's what it really comes down to at the end.
That's why retail buyers are largely dumb people. Last year, right around now, we were stuck at 50 cents, 48 to 52 cents for XRP, and volume was low. Nobody wanted it. It wasn't going anywhere. People were saying, why should I buy it? It's stuck at 50 cents. It's so cheap. Now, same thing. It's stuck between 280 and 310. It's not doing anything. It doesn't even have big volume. Why would I want to buy it? The answer? Because you're smart and it's going to go up 5-fold in the next several months. That's why. Because you're smart. You're not a dumb retailer. Okay. I get people annoyed at me because I believe that even the majority of educated Americans are not that bright.
I agree.
I had a friend who went to a party in Dallas, and he said to me, Jim, I talked to 20 people at the party. We were there for 3 or 4 hours. Not a single one knew what XRP was. Yeah.
I mean, we get financial advisors booking sessions with us to ask us about XRP. I'm not kidding.
Yeah. I know this is good.
Financial advisors, you
got to charge them a lot of money. Charge them in Bitcoin and move it to XRP. That's another thing you can do. Okay. The reason I bring this up, first of all, they're not aware. And if you explain on-demand liquidity and some of the IP, they would say, I don't understand all that. And, in fairness to them, it takes a while. There is a learning curve. It's not that easy. But they're going to be buying XRP at 20, 30, and 50 when they finally figure it out. So
that's right.
For my particular friend who said, Jim, I'm going to retire at 50 XRP. That will fulfill my goals. I'm getting on in years, and 50 is my target. He's going to be selling to those guys in Dallas who were at the party, and they're reasonably smart people. Okay, I have a joke, and I actually coined the joke with respect to my brother, who's a New York Times moron, who voted for Biden, got vaccinated, got boosted, loves Obama, doesn't even know he's gay, doesn't know a damn thing about anything about what's going on. Well, he was a Phi Beta Kappa from a major Midwestern university in economics and political science. And I said to him, John, you really don't know what fascism is. It's right in front of your nose, and Obama is an architect.
Well, they don't realize it until they see it, and then it's too late.
Well, I don't think they even see it when it's in front of their nose or when it limits their freedoms. So I said, what did you learn in political science if you can't even define fascism? Oh, what the hell are you talking about, Jim? I know what fascism is. It's Nazi Germany. And I said, well, you brilliant stooge, that's an example, not a definition. Now let's move on to your other area of Phi Beta Kappa, economics. Do you know what gold is with respect to money? Can you define the difference between gold and money and the dollar? And he said, no, you asshole, I'm tired of talking to you. I said, John, you are an idiot. And you're educated. Okay, there are millions like that. So what I've advanced in my insulting language, I tell people, besides your degree in alcoholism in college, what did you study?
That's funny. Well, just to compliment a lot of what you said, yeah, the people need a little bit of financial education, no doubt. It could really make a big difference in your life. And I want to clarify for the audience, I had only a few mentors on YouTube. So the information has always been free. It's been out there, and it's up to you really to take that initiative. Gregory Mannarino was somebody I spent listening to for years. I learned a lot from him, but he gave me enough of the tools I needed to do my own research and kind of bridge all of this together. But I'm self-taught, and I was explaining to you how I dropped out of college 3 times just so I can get a proper education through practical experience and combining that with analytical and critical thinking to formulate a recipe for success and knowledge. And when it comes to XRP, it was no different for me. I had to do a lot of research and cross-reference things over many years. And at the heart of it all, this is something you'll appreciate. It really does break down to simple math. And you can tie that to deep liquidity pools. And deep liquidity is non-negotiable for instant settlement at a global scale, if you think about it like this. So the XRP price doesn't, it has to rise to reflect the magnitude of the system that it was built to serve, essentially. Yep. And when you look even closer, it's that system that cannot function without such a high price. And if you start connecting all the dots, and I'm talking about the global financial corridors, the institutional liquidity needs with such high valuation assets, tokenization, the throughput of basic economics, you start to see very clearly that XRP is indeed the foundation of what's coming next. And finally, this is a multi-$100 trillion consolidation of finance into select protocols and select rails that will naturally continue to drive these prices to levels that most people, I think, can't even fathom, including myself.
Let me flesh out the Ripple XRP ecosystem.
Sure.
They just made an acquisition or a partnership investment, probably better term, with Beacon. And Beacon is deeply involved in anti-fraud functionality within digital finance. This is going to be a very big issue.
I know where
what
this
I
is
like
going.
to say is that Ripple is involved in building out the entire structure. They've got to function as the bridge asset, but they're building things out. Let me give you another analogy. I love my analogies and metaphors. If you're going to have like what the Russians did in the steppes region of Russia, they built agri-farms. They had wheat fields, corn fields, soybean fields, and they brought in workers, and they had to build up their residence. Where are they going to live? And they had to have little clothing shops for the coveralls and the boots and whatever else. They had to get little, diesel units, little gas stations and diesel stations. You need all the supporting architecture. And that's what Ripple is focusing on better than any of their competitors. And that's why they're winning the adoption race. Okay. We're going to be focusing a good deal on supply and demand soon because we're going to get a supply shock,
Yeah.
realizing how little XRP is available, people are not going to sell out at 5 and 8. They're not, because they know it's going a lot higher. So there's not going to be adequate supply. Therefore, it will have to get to where the holders expect it to go in order for them to let loose. They're not going to let loose at 8 if they expect it to go to 30. They're going to let it loose at 30 because they expect it to go to 30. 13% of the people were planning to sell at slightly higher prices. And something like 70% weren't planning on selling it ever. They're going to let it go up, and then borrow against it. Okay, we're going to get a supply shock, and we're going to get a demand influx torrent from the ETFs and from all the adopting financial institutions, the fintechs. You know, I was naive about 4 months ago. I said, what the hell is a fintech? Is that financial tech? Yeah. It's becoming complicated. The technology is complicated. And we're going to get some good service from some of the big banks to provide layers of usability for people who can go online and check. I'll just make something up. Check their Morgan Stanley account, and it'll be their crypto wallet with a corporate custodial wallet managed by the big firm. It's going to become easier. And the ETFs are going to, I think, bridge the gap and bring in a torrent, billions. I don't think 15 billion is going to be an accurate figure by next March or April for the ETFs and the XRP demand. Okay, another thing, quantum jumps. We're going to get this shock with the ETFs. We're going to get BlackRock becoming publicized as running 2 or 3 or 4 of them, ETFs with XRP. The supply shock will probably result in the next few months with an $8 to $10 price. Not a gradual move. It's going to be a sudden move, boom, 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 boom. Every day it's going up a dollar, and suddenly it's stable at 8. And then we get another supply shock because a group of other ETFs come in and it moves to 15 or 18. And we get another supply shock because others weren't even listed and now they're applying for SEC approval. And we may eventually, Versan, get CFTC approval and not necessarily SEC approval, maybe approval by either to facilitate the flood of ETFs to make it easier for the 65-year-old folks, men and women, who don't understand jack about cold wallets. And they don't know what Bitcoin is. What's this Ethereum? I have a client who asked me, what's this Ethereum that I keep? What is it? And I said, it's like...
Tim, it does go a bit deeper into what you're saying. And I agree with you. The next XRP price surge is likely to be driven by a supply shock. But more importantly, it's because of many of these failing institutions that are trying to secure liquidity when the US dollar fails to deliver. And that's really what it comes down to. And it's a geopolitical event because it has the key role in stabilizing currencies, economies, and global debt markets. So the demand is not speculative in nature, but necessary and inevitable.
It's going to fill liquidity crisis situations. And in my August report, I listed some of the potential crises. And, you know, honestly, I don't think even 1 in 100 Americans knows what the yen carry trade is. Back in 1990s, Japan had a very strong currency because they were an export powerhouse. Toyota, Datsun, Honda was really just motorcycles and lawnmowers back then. Nikon, cameras, Fujitsu, and all these different named export giants. So they asked Goldman Sachs, what do we do to fix our problem? We have too strong a currency. It's going to wreck our own export success. Our export trade is going to be at risk because our currency is going up. And they said, go to 0%. That's why they went to 0%. And they stayed there for 20 years. Well, Wall Street They're not knuckleheads. They borrowed yen at 0% and bought Treasury bonds at 6%. And they put on leverage, but now they got to reverse it, Versan. They got to reverse it because the Japanese are raising interest rates. The 30-year bond is over 3%, causing big problems with their debt market. I don't want to get into too much on the yen carry trade, except to say, sign up for my newsletter and read more about it. But it's going to cause a crisis for selling Treasury bonds.
I believe that. And the next auction, I think, is in a few weeks for $100 billion.
Oh, they've had crappy auctions for the last 6-10 months more. What they do is they hand money under the table to the other, I call them cloaked British, Cayman Islands, Ireland, Brussels, Belgium, Bermuda. They're all Britain. They're all British. They're British. So we hand money under the table, and they have a big spike in their Treasury bond holdings, and then in 2 or 3 months it goes away. That's because we bought it. And we got the Exchange Stabilization Fund. It's also buying unwanted Treasury bonds auctioned. We have lots of different terminology. Oh, what was the tail? Well, we had a terrible tail on that Treasury auction. Well, what's a tail? Well, that's the difference between the initial interest offered and the last, and we had to raise it just to sell all that toxic paper, U.S. government debt. The difference is called the tail. The bigger the tail, the lousier the auction. Then they got the foreign participation, and that's where they doctor it with money under the table. Oh, I'm telling you, this is more of the source of funds that'll go into the stable coin. And I'll make a prediction for you, Versan. I'll make a prediction. This time next year, we're going to be talking about how the stable coins are somewhat contaminated by treasuries.
Yeah. It's being used as a mechanism right now to kind of prop things up. Yes, but also, for listeners to understand what you were explaining there, it matters because central banks and sovereign wealth funds, they're quietly increasing their allocation now into gold. And that just signals that the paper-based system is not really sustainable anymore. And it also sets the stage for everything we've been talking about in this discussion, for digital assets that will interact with tangible reserves. You saw what happened with silver. The Central Bank of Russia now has a strategic reserve for silver. And
Mexico
Saudi Arabia
will also.
Followed. Exactly.
Mexico coming.
Right. And that's where this is all going ultimately. With blockchain technology, you can enable the tokenization of real physical assets and put that on the DLT. And now you need a bridge settlement mechanism to support all of that. It's incredible. I mean, this conversation can go on forever, Dr. Jim.
Let me just add a couple things. The foreign partnerships and adoptions are really growing for Ripple and XRP. We've got Link Logis out of China, Link Logis. And they're a supply chain $1 trillion transaction. They just adopted XRP. Okay, another one is WebNS International. They just aligned with Air China. I mentioned AMG Theaters, but there's also Bookie in Texas. You know this better than I do. I'd never heard of Bookie until a couple months ago. BUC-EE with a beaver. They sell gasoline on the side. They're like a giant Walmart with gas stations on the side.
Yeah,
they're accepting XRP. We're going to get these layers put into our smartphones so that you can go in and say, well, I'd like to pay with Bitcoin or pay with XRP. Let me give you some advice. Pay with Bitcoin. Don't pay with XRP.
Smart. Very good advice. Buy the Bitcoin, let other people finance it. It goes higher in price, pay with it, and basically take their wealth and rotate it into services, but keep your XRP. That's not a bad idea.
And you know what's coming up? Okay, there's a little coin called Onyx Coin, and they're not alone, but they're accepting Bitcoin as collateral to issue credit, debt, loans. And they're using Tether, USD Tether, to issue the loan, to grant the payment of the loan. And you've got to put aside, corral it to the side and, isolate your XRP for borrowing purposes. This is going to become another support service. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised in the next few months if Ripple announces that they got a partner to use XRP as collateral to borrow money and pay it out in Tether.
Yep. I mean,
it's coming.
That's essentially what it is. You're going to be able to borrow against it in due time once the demand is high enough.
Ripple is doing a better job than all of their competitors in building the support industries, like with agriculture, the housing, the boots, the clothes, the diesel, the movie theaters for entertaining the workers who are out there in the wheat field. The support industries, they're very important. And Ripple's doing much better job. I mean, when I read about Beacon, the anti-fraud, I thought, way to go. That is a critical support industry that Ripple has signed on with. They're doing a great job. And they're also greasing the palms of the congressmen. Ripple's going to be the favorite among Congress.
It already is. I think this was decided, to be honest, Jim, Willie. I think this was decided a long time ago. And what you see is called soft disclosure. We've seen this with other narratives before.
Soft disclosure. I don't like it. It's real, but let me just say that I have a term. I call them useful corrupt giants. Now, we've been called useful idiots. You know, the Democrats are really good at creating useful idiots to go out there and, campaign for Kamala. Yeah. Well, we on the other side, we like BlackRock's participation with XRP. Let's try to make sure that they don't try to centralize the holdings in a wallet.
That's a whole different discussion. And
I know.
Maybe we could do a part 2 on this
some other time. Yeah, I know.
I think we should do a part 2. That'd be great.
We're going to have several useful giants.
Yes.
JPMorgan, Bank of New York Mellon, Bank of America, they're all going to be pouring into XRP. I think they're buying XRP right now.
Yeah.
They might, they're loving the price under $3. I'm telling people, quit complaining and do more buying. Lend me money so I can buy. This is not going to be unusual napkin math. This is going to happen over and over again. I'm not apologizing for doing this because they're stealing our work, and they're getting clicks, and they're getting online credits. And
a lot of my work has been plagiarized in this ecosystem, and they've gotten away with it.
There's no enforcement. All we can do is expose it. We can't enforce it. All we can
I tried to tokenize intellectual property. That didn't work out so well. So I tried to, I'm not kidding. Yeah, I was trying to tokenize my intellectual property for the words I've said in this ecosystem, and I can't do it, or maybe I just don't know how.
Well, I think part of the problem is that you need the collaboration of corrupt financial giants in order to get it done.
Yeah, maybe.
And this speaks to the entire corruption issue. This guy who I said, you don't know jack shit about XRP, you couldn't tell me 2 things about it. I told him, do you like the fraud? Did you like the Lehman Brothers fraud in 2008? Did you like the .com fraud in 2000? Are you enjoying the fraud in Wall Street? Did you like 9/11? Did you like the World Trade Center theft of gold? If you like all that, then don't be involved in digital finance. Just continue in your merry, corrupt pathway. It's not getting fixed because the people in charge are your biggest fraud kings. That's why they blocked. This is really funny. They've been blocking Bitcoin. They've been blocking crypto. They've been blocking transfers to your bank account, from your bank account to your coin exchange account. And now they're joining it because they see it's got critical mass. It's got tremendous acceleration and progress. And now it offers them lower cost structure. So they want XRP to lower their cost structure. They're going to be tripping over each other to bring about these custodial wallets at Wall Street banks, easing the transfers in and out of your coin exchange accounts, and making them a lot more protected from fraud. I don't know a single person who's had a theft in his brokerage account in 40 years. Not a single theft ever. But I know of 4 or 5 thefts that have been involved with coin exchange accounts.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I'm
I'm not surprised. I mean,
I'm not talking about Mt. Gox. Mt. Gox was a very big theft. I've got console calls with people who suffered a fraud, but there's a phone call in every single story. A phone call to say, you need to give us your password and credentials so we can move it to a safe place. No, they move it to their own account to steal it. A phone call is a device for fraud.
well, I mean, overall, in the digital asset ecosystem, there are only 3 ways to really protect yourself. I think owning physical assets, anything outside the system, gold, silver, some cash, maybe, even if it's becoming worthless, you need that for emergencies. The transition, there might be some sort of crisis. Maybe there won't be. It doesn't matter. And then in the digital ecosystem, you have to have a long-term strategy and a short-term strategy where you can pull out profits and rotate that back into gold and silver. And finally, what I'll say is if you're protecting your cryptocurrencies, you should have them on several hardware wallets, cold storage, spread out, and ultimately have one that is for an LLC. You put 3 in there, and then you have some that are just private. See how that works out for you.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you want to be in control of your money, because my battle at the end of the day, what I fight for on this channel, Dr. Jim, is sovereignty. And I've learned that over time through experience in this space. But that's ultimately what I'm fighting for, and for the whole community as well. I do believe in the digital ecosystem, but I do believe in having your sovereignty outside of the system as well.
And that brings independence. And once you get the independence, you can pay for a Super Bowl bet or a college football bet with your friend in in North Carolina, and you can pay the $20 over the net, peer to peer, and there's no bank involved.
Yeah, no intermediaries. That's correct.
No intermediary. Right now, every transfer goes through the central bank.
Yeah, and that's a problem. That's very problematic. But when we start looking into deeper discussions of all this stuff, and I've been following these central bankers for a very long time, it's almost like they're trying to keep their grip on everything. And that's why, to a degree, they're investing in this technology as well. So there's another discussion around that too.
Yeah, I know. I think we're going to get a two-year transition period, Versan.
Yeah.
Where their power is weakened and not eliminated.
Yes, I support that.
I think my metaphor is they're going to be forced to take an equal seat at the large table. It's not going to be a small table with Wall Street banks. It's going to be a large table with 100 institutions, and Ripple is going to have a very big voice. And then after 3 years, okay, we'll be talking about the next election. I think they're going to put the next presidential election on the blockchain because there's so much fraud.
I mean, they're already talking about bringing voting into the blockchain. So, yeah.
And right now,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. We got a delay. The Brunson case is coming out more and more. I just got a flash here about AMG News. We're going to have the next big election, and I don't know about the 2026 midterms. We might still get more corruption by the Democrat big blue cities. They're being now identified as corrupted. Their governors and their mayors are being identified as traitors. The judges are now. I have a phrase I like to say: "All traitors, please rise." all you judges that are supporting the sanctuary cities, please rise. Traitors, please rise. Okay.
I gotta tell you, Jim, it's very refreshing to speak with you. It really is. I mean, I really enjoy our conversations.
You got to have a little bit of fun. I'm going to have some fun watching some NFL football. And I know that a lot of people think, well, college football is a lot more fun. It is. But pro football is still fun for me, and it's a great diversion, and that's why I'll be tuning in and having a nice big fat lunch and dinner. I got to say something about. I got to say something quickly about silver. We're going to get a supply shock with silver. We got tremendous demand, and it's growing, and we got supply that is shrinking. We haven't had a giant mine discovery in several years. We're going to have Mexico sequestering their silver and making it available only for China. Without
My
the
God.
label, the Mexican nation has gone communist.
That's incredible.
We're at
I mean,
war
it's
with
not a
them.
positive thing, really. I mean, it's
Not
good for
positive at
silver,
all.
but
We're at war with the
that's probably
cartel.
why BlackRock helped rig the election out there.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Oh yeah, I had a friend, dear friend of mine in the crypto space, very successful lady. She lives in Mexico, has a place out there, and she was protesting when she called me on video at the protest for the election, and BlackRock had their fingers all over it. And that only made me think that, well, it's very possible. I mean, you know how these big institutions are. They are enthralled with cartels. They are enthralled with some of the things we're not allowed to talk about here, and we shouldn't.
Their
But
movement of
I
money
wouldn't be
underground
surprised.
is enormous.
Yes, yes. And but they did rig the election out there. You
And
know,
it's a
it's just
Marxist.
incredible.
Scheinbaum is a Marxist.
Yeah. So I'm not surprised with BlackRock having its fingers in everything, and Larry Fink now taking over the WEF. Oh my God, I don't even want to begin.
I don't want to
Um,
talk about that. It's
yeah,
very, very bothersome, and I hope it is not successful.
yes, yeah,
Silver, I believe, is eventually going to see some price shocks going up because of lost supply, because the market cannot supply, and we're going to get huge differentials between Shanghai and New York.
yeah.
It's already begun. And the BRICS nations, oh, they're eventually going to go to Dubai with their cotton or their copper or their rare earth metals, and they're going to exchange it for gold and silver. It's going to be BRICS. And
Yeah.
there's not going to be adequate supply unless it moves to 45, 50, 60, 80. Okay. I have
Exciting times ahead.
I have
for
a
sure.
joke. I have a joke. I'm a funny guy. The Fibonacci sequence dictates that, and I apply it to silver. We had 10 way back in the 1990s. 10, 20, 30, 50, 80. What's next?
It's going to go higher. I mean,
10,
all
20.
asset prices are going to increase, and that's the thing. See, I want to also focus before we wrap it up here. I do have another call approaching, but
Okay.
you know, I really think about the average person, because I used to be there once. I couldn't pay my rent at one point. It was very, you know, tough trying to find success and opportunity in a time now where wealth has been consolidated, monopolies pretty much dominate everything. And I think about the ordinary individual who is just trying so hard to get by, and the delinquencies are at all-time highs, job market's bad, currency's devalued, and you know, it's like their window of opportunity to invest in some of this stuff for before they start blowing these things up, it's shrinking. And you know, that's why we try our best to really educate people on all of this, because this is indeed a wealth transfer, and you can participate in it just with a little bit of effort.
It's going to be a multi-trillion-dollar wealth transfer into digital finance. The hydraulics will dictate that only 5 or 7 big winners will be there, and then we get the overflow to the others.
Yeah.
This is one of the biggest opportunities, and that's why I'm focusing a lot on XRP. My largest chapters in the last 3 months for the newsletter have been XRP related. My website, we got to close this. My website is www.golden-jackass.com. golden-jackass.com. In April, I had my 21st anniversary. So I'm getting long in the tooth at this. I would love to be given an opportunity to retire in the next few years, except that I had way too big fat mouth. I called out evil, not just fraud and criminality. I called out evil, and I get attacked. I get attacked by dark, occult, powerful, satanic forces, I'm afraid. So sign up for the newsletter, golden-jackass.com. Make a donation if you don't like to read newsletters and you prefer just the podcast. Help me out with donations. I got time for consult calls. I did one recently, and we did something that I hadn't done for a while. we did a group consult where the client said, Jim, tomorrow let's do this again. I'm going to bring in 4 of my friends. So we did a group consult on Zoom, and this is really wonderful. But if you're very wealthy and if you're a multimillionaire, you want to help me out, hit the sponsor button. A number of people do. And honestly, I go to both knees to thank the Lord Jesus when they do that, because often they're Christians. And I post nothing on any social network. So they're either following my work or they're plagiarizing and impersonating me. I had one client a few months ago say, Jim, this guy's pretending to be you and giving out advice.
Yeah.
Financial counsel.
It's awful. It's awful.
There's no enforcement, no enforcement at all.
Yeah, well, hopefully that will change. But
yeah,
to the audience, all the information will be in the link in the description below. Did I say that right? Yeah. Everything will be in the description below. And please go support Jim Willie. Dr. Jim Willie has been calling evil out, and that's something very few people do anymore. And he's a man of God. That's important, I think, to clarify. And I have a lot of respect and admiration for Dr. Jim Willie. He's also helped me on my path as well. So thank you, Dr. Jim Willie. And I will bring you on in the next few weeks, again, maybe a month or two, to do a part 2 to everything we talked about here. But I'm just really happy to see you talking about XRP, because it's a trending conversation. And of course, it is the next big opportunity. So this is incredible.
We're going to get wealthy. We're going to get wealthy with this.
Yes, we are. But I'm going to send you some documents as soon as we're done here. And you could have this stuff for your own research and your own videos and everything you do. It would be great.
Okay.
But yes, until next time.
Let me just say that I haven't mentioned it, but Germany has just embraced XRP. Germany.
Yeah.
It's on their news. It's in their magazines. And it's a couple of their like venture capital type financial managers. They're talking about XRP. This is going to be very big. We got Japan. We got China. We got UAE. I think Russia is doing a lot.
Yep.
They don't talk about it much. We don't publicize what they do. And there's also, oh gosh, I can't remember. There's one other. I can't think of it. This is like national adoption.
Yep. I mean, you're right about the Russian document. I do have it right here on my computer. The Russian central bank is certainly building a blockchain-based system on the XRPL. 100%.
Thanks very much, Versan. Bye now.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Send me those documents. Sure.
Sounds good.
Okay, bye now. Bye.